Greetings, exhibition booth listeners. I'm Marie-Louise, your guide to trade show triumph. And after 20 years in the trenches, I know how to make exhibitions work. Today we've got a guest with a fascinating story. Hal Benz of Thrive Active. Hal coaches businesses to new heights. And he's also a first-time exhibitor at that massive triple play Realtor Expo. Hal and I connected online, and I've been helping him navigate the exciting and sometimes daunting world of exhibitions. Now, with a background in psychotherapy, entrepreneurship, and coaching, Hal brings a unique blend of insight and motivation embodied in his motto: all it takes is the courage to start. Whether you're a seasoned pro or about to embark on your own exhibition adventure, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking with Hal Benz from Thrive Active, and we're going to discuss Hal's experiences at trade shows. Hi, Hal.
Hey Marie, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So good to be here with you today.
I was wondering if you could share some information about yourself, where you're from, your business, and solutions you provide to people.
Absolutely. My name again is Hal, and I am a licensed psychotherapist and performance and life coach here in the United States. Live about an hour west of Manhattan. I work primarily with small business owners and entrepreneurs. And a lot of what I do is for many years, I was doing productivity kind of coaching, helping them to grow their businesses and to put together business plans and accountability and execution, all those different things. But the thing that I came to realize was that in many ways, I truly believe that people's business grow to the extent that they grow as a person. And the question isn't always so much, what do I need to do to have my business become successful? It's who do I need to become so I can do the things that I need to do so that my business can become successful? So the work that I do is really helping entrepreneurs grow interpersonally and in a variety of different areas of their lives so that they have the energy, the endurance, the vision, the stamina, the things that they need to do to have a successful business.
I understand that you have just done your first exhibition.
It is absolutely true.
Tell me a bit about your experiences at that show.
Well, so let me tell you what the show was and how I ended up there. For probably the past 20 years or so, many of the people that I've been coaching have been in the real estate business, real estate agents, entrepreneurs, and the like. And here in this part of the world, there is a very large annual trade show that encompasses the state real estate associations for three states, New York State, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And it's a big show,
Mm.
probably anywhere between, in a typical year, 5 to 10,000 people in
Wow.
attendance. And I've noticed, and I've attended that show before. I also hold a broker's license. I've gone there as a broker. And it was really clear to me that there was never been any coaches on the trade show floor. And I just saw that as an opportunity for me. When I launched my coaching business last year, I made it a point that when it was a time to enroll to be on the floor if you want, that you could do that. So I did. And I was really the only coach there. It really was amazing. But it was a big show, and it was my very first show. And I have to say, not having ever been in a trade show before, have had no idea what to expect, no idea what to do. And quite honestly, with some help from you, I was able to make some sense out of the muddle and turn it into a positive experience.
We have worked together. I coached you through that whole process. I know how it can be daunting because there's so many moving parts before you even get to the show. And if you don't get those moving parts right and then turn up at the show, you build your exhibition stand, and the show days, you can be so stressed because you've had a stressful period leading up to that show. My goal was to make sure that you were relaxed enough to sell your services at that show. Give me some positives of attending the show.
I think one of the things that was a real positive for me was the networking. It was 2 days, right? So it was really two full days, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 2 days in a row. And there were 400 vendors on the floor. It was a big show. And one of the things that I learned very quickly was that many times people who go onto the floor are looking for something very specific. There's a particular product they want to find or things like that. And it can be a lot of work sometimes to connect as there's so much commotion.
Mm.
And the big positive for me was very much the relationships that I was able to make. As a coach, I'm not selling gizmos. I'm not selling something that people can put in their bag and walk out with. What the whole nature of the beast, and again, I learned this early on, and quite frankly, in speaking with other vendors who are way more seasoned than I was,
Mm.
just give me some tips in terms of how to best use the time while I was on the floor. And it's all about the networking and the relationships being built and having enough of a meaningful conversation that I could follow it up because there's only so far that you can go on the trade floor. It was amazingly beneficial for me from the standpoint that since that trade show, which was in December, right before Christmas time, it's really led to a number of speaking engagements. It's led to a number of invitations to participate and to provide services for a variety of other organizations. And it's all because of the relationships that were built.
Let me ask you this. Do you think your stand was there to sell yourself, or was it there to provide a backdrop for you to create relationships with people who walk past?
Originally, I would have answered that thinking it was there for me to sell myself. And what I came to learn pretty quickly. And again, part of it is just from the experience of being there and seeing how it unfolds, but also partly from having the good sense of being able to choose a stand, quite honestly, in a location with some very experienced other vendors. I knew who was around me and I knew that they would be busy, which was a decision I made when I picked the spot. But in retrospect, the stand, which was small, it was only 10 feet by 10 feet. It's not a huge stand, but it was a place that was welcoming and comfortable for people to come and talk. The stand that you helped me create was very different from the traditional stand that most people around me had, which was more typically a desk with some materials on it, and they sat behind a desk, and maybe there was a banner behind them. But it was just people standing in the aisle. The stand that we created
Mm.
with a high top table where people could come and I could sit and we could talk and they could come and they could mingle. It was a very different, inviting experience. And I think what it did is it slowed people down. It slowed people down so that they could have a conversation, and that was really effective.
This is a thing. You can't block yourself off from people that you want to engage with.
Yeah.
I see it so many times all around the world where people put things in front of them and to sell and to talk about their product, but people don't want to engage with somebody who's blocking themselves off. You have to be open, and
Yeah.
that's what your stand would have done. Tell me a little bit about the negative side of trade shows that you've experienced now.
They're a big business. And I guess I think it really depends on the show. This was a very big show. And it was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. It was in a big convention center. There was a lot of union involvement in terms of moving things in and out. I had no idea what I was getting in for. I just thought I was going to pay the amount of money and I would have a place that was already furnished and I would sit down and do my thing. And so one of the things that I learned is that it can be expensive, right? It's a certain amount of money just to have access. But then if you want electricity, that's extra. If you want carpeting underneath your feet on the trade show floor, that's extra. If you want this, it's extra. And there's all kinds of union rules about bringing things in and bringing things out. And so I'll be honest with you, had I known how much it would have ended up costing by the time you stacked all those things together, I may have been more intimidated and maybe even not done it. But so I think on one hand, the thing that I needed to do once I made that commitment and realized how financially it was, is I really needed to be clear about what was my goal. How would I determine if I had success? I found really quickly that I wasn't going to measure success by clients that I picked up because no one goes to a trade show and hires a coach any more than anybody goes into the supermarket and hires a psychotherapist. It's just not the way it happens, right? You build relationship in different ways. But so the negatives, I think, were also because it was so big. One of the things that I found was there's just so much commotion, there's so much activity on the floor sometimes that it's hard for people to slow down and to have that kind of a meaningful conversation. I found having a big bucket of chocolate did help because they would slow down and get a chocolate and we could have some conversation. Quite honestly, I also found that having a giveaway
Mm.
where they could scan a QR code, which would allow me to capture their information, and there was a giveaway for something. That also helped as well. And it wasn't so much the fact that the product that they were getting, it slowed them down long enough
Mm.
for me to have a conversation. Otherwise, people just fly up and down the aisles and they don't really stop much.
Because of that, you would have to have your pitch down pat, wouldn't you? You haven't got much time to actually engage and sell your product. Having those giveaways with a QR code is perfect because people can just take a photo and then fill in their details. And while they're filling in their details, you can have a chat to them. Was there anything else that you experienced at the expo that you could give tips on to people who are thinking of exhibiting?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that you want to think about to some degree is where you're putting your stand in the show and how does the flow move around that space? Because there's certain places where there's restrooms, there's certain places where there's food. And so there's certain places where there's always going to be a hub of activity. And then there's other places where you can really be out in nowhere land. So being really intentional. Again, one of the things, even before I had the opportunity to meet you, that I think I was fortunate in making a decision is that I got in the game early enough that I picked the space close to vendors that I anticipated would be very busy because of what they were doing. So that was one thing. I think another thing is you're on your feet a lot,
Mhm.
or you potentially are on your feet a lot. Don't underestimate the importance of having some really good shoes, but also concrete floors are tough. And so making sure, that extra investment to have decent carpet under your feet for me was really important because it allowed me to be on my feet and not feel so fatigued. Whereas I watched a lot of other folks who were really struggling by the end of the day, and many of them 30 years younger than me.
I see a lot of people at trade shows, especially women wearing high heels, and they struggle through the day. Sometimes we've got the laminated floors, and they're really hard to stand on all day. What happens is that you fatigue and then you sit down and then you don't engage.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
people are, oh, they're too tired to talk to me. I'm going to go somewhere else. And they lose leads.
The other thing that I did, because I was there by myself, right? I didn't have a team of people there, is I took the time to create a video loop, which talked a little bit about who I am, what I do, and the model that I work from. And that was a blessing for two reasons. Number one is while I was in conversation with someone else could watch that while they were waiting for me. It was funny. The vendors on both sides of me felt like they had my pitch down perfectly by the end of the 2 days because they heard that loop so many times around. But the other thing that did for me, quite honestly, is when I did need to step away because I was by myself and I did need to step away for a moment to use the restroom or whatever it was, there was still a presence there. So that helped. That did help.
When you leave your stand, when you're by yourself, I recommend people who are working by themselves on their booth to have a stand that actually has a good message and you've used a video. So you could go out in the crowd and engage with other people in that crowd instead of just standing at your stand, but knowing that your stand is still selling your message and selling your products and services. What's happening at the moment for you?
What's happening at the moment for me is I'm still in clinical practice, so I'm still seeing clients several days a week. But as I'm growing my coaching business, and again, I did pick up clients directly from the show itself, but also from the relationships that led to. So I'm doing that. But what's really where I'm pouring my energy right now in many ways is to develop an online course. And that course is really based on the developmental model that I developed in terms of how to work with folks. And what I find is it's really hard to scale a business and to get your message and to have impact only one-on-one, right? There's only so much bandwidth and time in a day. And I do find that an online course, when it's put together with really good content and it's accessible to people online that they can do at their own pace, is really appealing. And so I'm developing that course right now, and that should be available later this year.
Let people know where they can find you.
My website is Thrive Active. It's those two words, Thrive and Active, that I just mushed together to make a sort of a compound word. It's thriveactive.life. So the website's actually a life coaching platform site. So it's thriveactive.life. My email address is info@thriveactive.life. That's the easiest way for people to reach me. And certainly when they get to the website, there's a lot of ways they can contact me through the website. They can learn more about the work that I do and the developmental model that and there's a variety of resources there as well.
Okay, everyone, thanks for listening. Hal, thank you so much. I wish you luck with your online course and your business.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. I couldn't have done it without you.